Grievances, Leader of the National Party.
Speaker, and I too add my welcome to the girls that have come along today, and to Catherine, who is taking over the electorate of Central Wheatbelt. Look forward to catching up with her this afternoon. My grievance is to the Minister for Transport, and I thank her for taking the time to consider the matters that I'm raising today. I'd like to discuss the Wheatbelt Secondary Freight Route project, a proposed road network comprising of 4,400 kilometres of local government managed roads that connect with state and national highways to provide access for heavy vehicles into the region. The Wheatbelt region produces 41% of the state's gross value of agricultural production, worth $3.35 billion in 2016-17 alone. There has been a significant change in the freight task in the Wheatbelt over the past decade. Deregulation of the wheat market, changes to CBH's grain receival network, changes to soil management and increased lime application, larger and more frequent machinery and truck movements have all contributed to putting pressure on a network of roads that are now managing a transport task they were never really designed for. We rely on having an efficient transport network to support this important sector, one that benefits the local, state and national economy, as well as provides safe thoroughfare for a wide range of other road users. The aim of the project, Minister, is to identify and prioritise continuous routes on the local government managed roads to optimise the network. And the roads that have been identified as part of the secondary freight network are essentially our weakest link in the network. They are no longer fit for purpose, and they are restricting the size and type of vehicle that can be used to carry out the required transport task. Further, the burden of managing these roads falls to local government and not necessarily in a fair or equitable way. For example, lime is carted through some coastal shires, but they may not be the direct beneficiaries of the increased agricultural production as a result of lime application. To the great credit of the 42 local governments involved, they have identified the issue, and a project group was formed in 2016 to work on solutions. It's no small feat, as I'm sure you would appreciate, to have 42 local governments working together on one project, and they have collaborated to identify priority routes, to collect data. They've contributed funding to a pre-feasibility study and a cost-benefit analysis to support the planning process thus far. They estimate the in-kind investment by local government to date is more than $750,000. Having been working on this for 2 years now, they are understandably keen to keep progressing the project. While they appreciate the fact the state is undertaking the Revitalising Regional Agricultural Region Freight Strategy, significant work has already been undertaken on the Wheatbelt Secondary Freight Network Plan. Informal advice from the department that have been working with them, and they do acknowledge this, is that the project priorities and work done to date broadly align with the work being done by the Department of Transport and Main Roads WA, albeit it's obviously a subset of the broader strategy that the government is working on. You are no doubt aware that their long-term goal is to secure funding support from the federal government for approximately $500 million in staged capital works over a 10 to 20-year timeframe. Of course, in order to be considered by the federal government, it needs to be listed as an Infrastructure Australia priority, for which they require a Stage 4 business case submission, which doesn't come cheap. They have been investigating funding options to progress this business case for some time, which they believe will cost up to $5 million. And an opportunity to secure Building Better Regions funding is currently available, with submissions needing to be in by November the 15th, 2018. You would be aware that these applications require in-principle support from the state government, as well as funding from other sources, and these co-contributions need to be confirmed in writing at the time of the application. Minister, I understand the group sought $1.25 million from the state government, the Department of Primary Industries and Regional Development. I think it was through Royalties for Regions back in November 2017, and they were unsuccessful in this application. They were advised at that point that any work done on this project would need to be done in the context of the RAF, and that any funding from Royalties for Regions was not appropriate at this time. They've been directed to deal with the team undertaking the RAF. However, a majority of the consultation to date has been via Main Roads WA and Wheatbelt Development Commission and Walga. And whilst they've received informal updates from the Wheatbelt Development Commission, they've had no formal correspondence or follow-up consultation from the RAF team apart from one face-to-face meeting. The project team is seeking to ensure that their work is supported by the WA State Government and also supports other project work being undertaken in WA analysing strategic freight issues. An indication from yourself as to when the RAF strategy would be completed would very much assist the project group better plan their activities, And there's been a suggestion that perhaps a formal project group within Main Roads and the Department of Transport, working with the Wheatbelt Strategy Network to ensure ongoing coordination of this work, would assist in keeping lines of communication open, and your advice on this would be very much appreciated. Clearly, the group don't want to miss out on an opportunity to secure federal funding to support the development of a full business case and have the project listed as an Infrastructure Australia priority. Without funding, the project group and local government road groups involved will be unable to do more than just play at the edges of implementing much needed change. So there is an opportunity now, and if a written letter of in-principle support, along with a financial contribution to accompany the project's Building Better Regions submission, I know would be very much appreciated and welcomed by those local government groups that have been involved over the last 2 years in putting together such a significant project. I do raise this grievance in good faith. The group does recognise that they have had input and assistance from Main Roads and the Department of Transport, and they certainly aren't trying to create trouble. They are just aware that there are opportunities to secure funding from the federal government that they obviously can't succeed in without the support of the WA state government. And given the information that I've been provided and the work that I've seen over the past 2 years, I know they are very much trying to align what they are doing with the state government and appreciate that they could be an important cog in a broader strategy. So I look forward to your advice on this important matter, Minister.
Minister for Transport.
Thank you, and I thank the member for the grievance. And I know the member for Vic Park's very excited by his booking, but maybe keep it down. But can I also acknowledge Lara too, who's taken over the electorate of West Swan too in the program today. I thank the member for the grievance, and I did seek further advice from my agencies and spoke to some relevant staff members or relevant people today to get up-to-date information about what is happening in relation to the strategy. So as you outlined, the Wheatbelt Secondary Freight Route strategy has been undertaken by a number of councils, 42 I think, across the Wheatbelt, looking at what are the priorities in relation to upgrading the freight routes and working together, which is always, like you said, a challenge, but always very productive when it does happen, because you can actually get all of these issues addressed up front, and many of the issues that are raised in one council area will affect the next. So, of course, in particular, throughout the Wheatbelt and throughout regional WA, and throughout the metropolitan area, frankly, councils working together to address the transport challenges is very, very important. They've been working away, as I understand, the Regional Development Australia assisted, and of course Main Roads through its work in the regions has also helped. As I understand, they went to Infrastructure Australia, who said that without state government support, without in-principle support, they won't look at it or they won't prioritise it. I still understand that the Federal Minister for Transport is interested in it, and I would continue to urge that communication through every channel possible to make sure he's aware of the challenge in regional WA, but also in managing our freight movements across regional WA. So that's the work that's been done. Then, of course, we've also launched the Revitalising Agricultural Freight Strategy, which is broader. So, as you said, the freight route work is really a subset of the agricultural freight strategy, and the Revitalising Agricultural Regional Freight Strategy looks at intermodal, so looking at what's happening across roads, rail and, of course, ports as well, and is broader in scope in the fact that it picks up parts of the Midwest, the Gascoyne, the Southwest as well, so it's broader. I've been advised that the work that's been undertaken in relation to the secondary freight route work has fed directly into the Revitalising Agricultural Region Freight Strategy, that Main Roads has made sure that they've brought the information that the 42 regional councils did into the major freight strategy. And as was outlined to me, of course, a big part of the freight strategy will be roads, of course. So that work is underway. In relation to timing, again, I've been advised that we'll be releasing the agricultural region freight strategy by the end of the year, but I do want to make sure I meet with the Minister for Regional Development in the next 2 or 3 weeks to go through all the potential requests and also how transport and that portfolio can work together in delivering and also responding to the requests. I think the issue we have here, as we all know, is that there's a federal election coming soon, and I think people see timelines, in particular, the window there to try and request funding from the federal government. So, in response to making representations to the federal government, I'll liaise with the Minister for Regional Development. I would urge the councils and the group to go directly to the federal government. I know they had through Infrastructure Australia, but it's probably worth also to continue to go directly to the federal minister. In the meantime, pardon? In the weekend, yes, what I
Directly
thought.
with them.
So he's coming over here?
Yes.
Yep. So that's great. See what we can secure from the federal government. As I said, the window is now. And in the meantime, I'll work with the Minister for Regional Development. I'll get a draft of the report and I'll do what I can to support more road funding in WA. I've made that pretty clear. Much to, I think, sometimes some comments from my colleagues, I really like securing road funding, and I will do what I can to support requests for road funding from the Commonwealth. I do want to make sure it's part of the overall strategy, but feedback I've got so far is that basically the road strategy is part of that supply program, works really well with the overall strategy, and they're not clashing in any way. So that's the good part of what's been done. And I think a lot of the work that was done by the 42 councils has fed directly into the Revitalising Agricultural Region Freight Strategy. In relation to that strategy, there's been significant consultation across industry. So the feedback that I've had so far in relation to the Revitalising Agricultural Region Freight Strategy has been positive in relation to who they've been consulting with and the scope of the work. And again, the advice that I've got is that the Wheatbelt Secondary Freight Route work is feeding directly into that and not inconsistent with the overall strategy. So I'll get the report, I'll get the feedback of the overall strategy soon, I hope. Talk to the Minister. In the meantime, if you continue to lobby the Federal Minister and the Deputy Prime Minister directly, and I'll see what I can do in relation to supporting further requests for road funding.
Thank you, Minister.